The galaxy was vast, filled with countless stars and planets. Among these worlds, Earth stood out, not for its beauty or its technology, but because it was forgotten. For centuries, humanity had been left alone, ignored by the advanced civilizations that ruled the cosmos. The Xyloran Empire, a mighty coalition of star-traveling species, viewed humans as primitive and irrelevant. They believed Earth held no value, no resources worth exploiting, and certainly no wisdom to offer. Humanity was nothing more than an old story told to younglings, a cautionary tale of what happens when a species fails to evolve. On Earth, life went on quietly. Cities sprawled across continents, forests still grew, and people lived their lives, unaware of the disdainful glances cast upon them from distant stars. But not everyone on Earth accepted this isolation. In a small research facility nestled in the mountains of South Korea, a young scientist named Ji-yoon worked tirelessly on something extraordinary. She had dedicated her life to studying quantum resonance, a mysterious phenomenon she hoped would unlock limitless energy. Her dream wasn't just about powering homes or cars. It was about proving to the universe that humanity could rise above its limitations. Ji-yoon's mentor, Professor Dong-woo, watched her with pride and concern. He admired her determination, but worried about where her ambitions might lead. "You're playing with forces we don't fully understand," he warned one evening as they reviewed data on glowing monitors. "If the galaxy finds out about your work, they won't see it as progress. They'll see it as a threat." Ji-yoon shrugged off his concerns. "Then let them come," she replied confidently. "If they think we're so useless, why should we fear them? Besides, maybe it's time we stopped hiding." Dong-woo sighed deeply. He knew Ji-yoon was right in some ways. Humans had spent too long cowering under the shadow of superior beings. Still, he couldn't shake the feeling that their quiet existence was safer than any alternative. Far away from Earth, aboard the gleaming capital ship of the Xyloran Empire, tensions simmered among the ruling council. Chancellor Kyung-tae sat at the head of a long table, his sharp eyes scanning the faces of those around him. To his left sat Admiral Hye-jin, a stern woman whose reputation for tactical brilliance was matched only by her cold demeanor. Across from her was General Min-soo, a fiery military leader who often clashed with Ambassador Su-ah, the council's voice of diplomacy. "The readings are undeniable," Admiral Hye-jin announced, breaking the silence. She gestured toward a holographic display hovering above the table. It showed strange energy fluctuations emanating from Earth. Something is happening there, something significant. Chancellor Kyung-tae leaned back in his chair, unimpressed. "Earth has always been irrelevant. Why waste our time speculating about meaningless anomalies?" General Min-soo slammed his fist onto the table. "Because anomalies become threats if left unchecked. If these humans have discovered something useful, we must act before they misuse it." Ambassador Su-ah raised a hand to calm the rising tension. "Perhaps we should observe first," she suggested gently. "There's no harm in learning more before making decisions." Kyung-tae nodded slowly, though his expression remained skeptical. "Very well. Send a reconnaissance fleet to investigate. But remember, the last thing I want is unnecessary conflict over a planet full of savages." As the council adjourned, Admiral Hye-jin summoned Captain Jae-hyun, one of her most trusted officers, to oversee the mission. Jae-hyun was known for his precision and loyalty, qualities that made him ideal for such a delicate task. When Hye-jin explained the situation, however, Jae-hyun felt a flicker of unease. He had heard stories about Earth, tales of stubbornness and resilience, but dismissed them as exaggerations. Could these primitive creatures truly pose a challenge? Days later, Jae-hyun's sleek vessel entered Earth's orbit. From space, the EA blue-green planet looked serene, almost innocent, yet beneath its surface lay secrets waiting to be uncovered. As his crew scanned for the source of the energy signals, they detected a massive structure hidden within a mountain range. It pulsed faintly with light, like a heartbeat. Curiosity got the better of Jae-hyun. Against protocol, he decided to make contact. Using basic communication protocols, he transmitted a message to the facility below. To his surprise, the humans responded almost immediately. Their language was crude compared to the refined tones of Xyloron's speech, but their intent was clear. They wanted to talk. When Jae-hyun met Ji-eun face-to-face inside the facility, he found himself taken aback. She was younger than he expected, with bright eyes that burned with conviction. Despite her modest surroundings, she carried herself with confidence, refusing to be intimidated by his towering presence or alien appearance. "We aren't afraid of you," Ji-eun said firmly after introductions were made. "And we don't need your pity either. All we ask is a chance to prove ourselves, to show you that humans are capable of greatness." Jae-hyun studied her carefully, searching for signs of deception. Instead, he saw sincerity and something else he hadn't anticipated: hope. These humans weren't content to remain stagnant. They yearned to grow, to reach beyond their limits. For the first time, Jae-hyun began to question everything he thought he knew about Earth. Back on Xylora, news of the encounter spread quickly. Some dismissed it as insignificant, while others whispered of danger lurking in humanity's potential. Meanwhile, Ji-eun continued her work, fueled by the belief that her efforts could change the course of history. Little did she know, her actions were already setting off ripples across the galaxy, ripples that would soon become waves. For now, though, the stage was set. Humanity, once deemed useless, had caught the attention of powers far greater than themselves. What would happen next depended not on weapons or armies, but on courage, ingenuity, and the unyielding desire to shape their own destiny. The Xyloran Empire was vast, powerful, and unshakable, or so it seemed. Its leaders ruled with an iron grip, their authority unquestioned for centuries. Yet beneath the surface of this seemingly perfect order, cracks were beginning to form. Among these fractures stood Captain Jae-hyun, a man who had always followed orders without hesitation. But now, as he gazed down at Earth from his sleek reconnaissance vessel, doubt crept into his mind like a shadow. Jae-hyun's orders were simple: investigate the strange energy readings coming from Earth and report back. What he hadn't expected was to find himself face-to-face with Ji-eun, a human woman whose determination burned brighter than any star in the galaxy. Her words echoed in his thoughts long after their meeting ended. "We aren't afraid of you," she'd said. Those words carried weight, more than Jae-hyun cared to admit. When he returned to his ship, his crew buzzed with excitement. They had never encountered humans before, and their curiosity was insatiable. Some viewed the species as weak and primitive, while others were intrigued by their resilience. Jae-hyun listened silently as his officers debated what should be done next. Should they destroy the facility, capture the humans, or simply leave them alone? "We can't ignore this," one officer argued. "Their technology is primitive." "Yes, but it has potential. If we don't act now, they might become a threat." Another countered, "They're just humans. Look at them. They're barely scratching the surface of space travel. How much harm could they possibly do?" Jae-hyun remained quiet, weighing their words carefully. He knew that reporting back to Admiral Hyejin would require more than just data. It would demand insight. The Council needed to understand not only what the humans were capable of, but also who they were. And Jae-hyun couldn't shake the feeling that humanity was far more complex than anyone gave them credit for. Meanwhile, on Earth, Ji-eun worked tirelessly to refine her quantum resonance device. The encounter with Jae-hyun had left her both exhilarated and anxious. For years, she had dreamed of making contact with alien life, hoping to prove that humanity deserved a place among the stars. Now that dream had come true, but at what cost? She worried that revealing Earth's advancements might bring danger rather than opportunity. Professor Dong-woo shared her concerns. "You've opened Pandora's box," he warned one evening as they reviewed new calculations. "Once word gets out about your work, there's no going back. Are you prepared for the consequences?" Ji-eun nodded firmly. "If we stay silent, we'll remain forgotten forever. I'd rather take a risk than live in obscurity." Her resolve inspired those around her, even as tensions grew within Earth's own government. Defense Minister Woo-sik, a cautious man who valued stability above all else, urged restraint. "This isn't just about us anymore," he told Ji-eun during a heated meeting. "If we provoke the wrong people, we could start a war we're not ready to fight. But Ji-Yun refused to back down. "War is already here," she replied. "It's been here for centuries. We just didn't see it because we were too busy hiding. Now we have a chance to change that." As days turned into weeks, Jae-hyun sent regular updates to Xylora. Each report painted a clearer picture of humanity's ingenuity and spirit. He described how Ji-Yun's team operated with limited resources, yet achieved remarkable results. He noted their willingness to collaborate despite cultural differences. Most importantly, he highlighted their courage, a trait he admired deeply. Back on Xylora, the council convened once again to discuss Earth. Chancellor Kyung-tae dismissed Jae-hyun's reports as exaggerated nonsense. "Humans are irrelevant," he declared dismissively. "Let them tinker with their toys if it amuses them." "It changes nothing," General Min-soo disagreed vehemently. "Irrelevant or not, their progress cannot go unchecked. If they develop weapons using this technology, they could destabilize entire systems." Ambassador Suah tried to mediate, advocating for caution. "Perhaps we should consider diplomacy instead of force. Humanity may surprise us if given the chance." The debate raged on, unresolved. Yet beyond the council chambers, whispers of rebellion began to spread. Oppressed species across the galaxy saw hope in Earth's defiance. For generations, they had suffered under the Xyloran Empire's rule, silenced and subjugated. Now, humanity's boldness ignited a spark, a belief that change was possible. Among those inspired was Yeon-ji, a skilled pilot from the planet Veyron. Like many others, she had grown weary of living in fear. When news of Earth reached her, she felt a surge of admiration and purpose. "If humans can stand up to the Empire, why can't we?" she asked her comrades. Her question resonated deeply. Soon, secret meetings were held, alliances formed, and plans devised. A coalition began to take shape, united by a single goal: freedom from Xyloran tyranny. Jae-hyun, meanwhile, found himself increasingly conflicted. His loyalty to the Empire wavered as he witnessed its flaws firsthand. The arrogance of Chancellor Kyung-tae, the ruthlessness of General Min-soo, and the desperation of Ambassador Suah all pointed to a system teetering on the brink of collapse. Could humanity truly be the catalyst for change? One night, unable to sleep, Jae-hyun accessed classified files stored aboard his ship. What he discovered shocked him. Experiments conducted by the Council to suppress dissent through mind control. Entire populations had been manipulated, stripped of free will, to maintain order. The revelations sickened him. How could he serve an empire built on such cruelty? Determined to learn more, Jae-hyun reached out to Ji-Yun secretly. Using encrypted communication channels, he shared fragments of information about the Council's atrocities. In return, she promised to keep him informed about Earth's progress. Their alliance, fragile yet vital, marked the beginning of something unprecedented: cooperation between human and alien. On Earth, Ji-Eun faced mounting pressure. With each breakthrough in her research came increased scrutiny from both allies and enemies. Defense Minister Woo-sik continued to push for restraint, fearing retaliation from Xylora. Others, emboldened by Ji-Eun's success, called for immediate action. "You're walking a dangerous line," Professor Dong-woo cautioned her one day. "Every step forward brings us closer to conflict. Are you sure this is the path you want to take?" Ji-Yun looked at him steadily. "There is no other path. We've spent too long being afraid. It's time to show the galaxy that humanity isn't just surviving, we're thriving." As tensions escalated, so did activity in the skies above, Earth. Unbeknownst to Ji-Eun and her team, Xyloran fleets gathered at the edges of their solar system, preparing for a strike. The Council had made its decision. Earth would be neutralized before it became a threat. But Ji-Eun wasn't idle. Knowing that confrontation was inevitable, she focused on developing a prototype weapon based on her quantum resonance technology. The device, though incomplete, had the potential to disrupt Xyloran shields, a game-changer in any battle. Days blurred into nights as Ji-Eun worked alongside her team, fueled by adrenaline and determination. They knew failure wasn't an option. If Earth fell, so too would the hopes of countless oppressed beings scattered across the stars. Finally, the moment arrived. Xyloran ships descended upon Earth, their massive forms casting ominous shadows over the planet. Alarms blared as cities scrambled to prepare for invasion. In the chaos, Ji-un activated her prototype weapon, aiming it at the lead vessel. For a brief moment, nothing happened. Then, with a flash of light, the enemy's shields flickered and failed. Cheers erupted among Ji-un's team, but the victory was short-lived. The Xylarans regrouped quickly, launching a devastating counterattack. Buildings crumbled, lives were lost, and the air filled with smoke and screams. Despite the odds, Ji-un refused to surrender. She rallied her team, urging them to hold their ground. Amidst the destruction, Jae-hyun watched helplessly from his command center. Orders flooded in from Admiral Hae-jin, demanding he join the assault. But Jae-hyun hesitated, torn between duty and conscience. Finally, he made his choice. Ignoring protocol, he transmitted a warning to Ji-un. Reinforcements were coming. "Trust me," he added cryptically. Ji-un didn't know whether to believe him, but she had no time to dwell on it. The battle raged on, each side fighting desperately for survival. Yet even as despair threatened to overwhelm her, Ji-un clung to hope. She believed not just in her technology or her team, but in the idea that humanity's greatest strength lay in its ability to adapt, persevere, and inspire. For the first time in centuries, Earth fought back. And though the outcome remained uncertain, one truth became clear. Humanity was no longer content to be forgotten. The battle for Earth was unlike anything humanity had ever faced. For centuries, humans had only dreamed of encountering alien life. But now, that dream had turned into a nightmare. The skies above were filled with the glowing shapes of Xylaran, warships, their weapons raining destruction on cities and landscapes below. Despite their advanced technology, however, the invaders found themselves struggling against something they hadn't anticipated: human resilience. Ji-un stood at the heart of the chaos, her hands trembling as she adjusted the controls of her quantum resonance device. The prototype weapon had proven effective in disabling enemy shields, but it wasn't enough to turn the tide completely. Each time the Xylarans regrouped, they retaliated with devastating force. Buildings crumbled, fires raged, and people screamed in terror. Yet even amidst the devastation, Ji-un refused to give up. She knew this fight wasn't just about survival, it was about proving that humanity deserved a place among the stars. Around her, her team worked tirelessly, repairing damaged equipment and recalibrating the device for another attempt. "Professor," Dongwoo stayed by her side, offering guidance and encouragement. "We've come too far to stop now," he said firmly, though his voice betrayed his exhaustion. "Keep going, Ji-un. Show them what we're made of." Her determination inspired others. Soldiers who had never wielded advanced technology before learned quickly, adapting to the demands of the battlefield. Civilians volunteered to help, carrying supplies, tending to the wounded, and doing whatever they could to support the effort. Together, they formed an unbreakable chain of hope, a reminder that even in the darkest moments, humanity could find strength in unity. Far away from Earth, news of the conflict spread like wildfire across the galaxy. Oppressed species watched in awe as humans dared to stand against the mighty Xylaran Empire. For generations, these beings had lived under the Empire's rule, silenced and subjugated. Now, humanity's defiance gave them courage and a reason to believe that change was possible. Yeonji, the skilled pilot from Veyron, felt her heart race as she listened to reports of Earth's resistance. "They're fighting back," she whispered to herself, her eyes shining with admiration. "If humans can do it, so can we." Her words resonated deeply with those around her. Secret meetings were held in hidden corners of planets and space, stations where oppressed beings gathered to share ideas and form alliances. Slowly but surely, a coalition began to take shape, a diverse group united by a single goal: freedom from Xylaran tyranny. Among the leaders of this growing movement was Ambassador Su'a, whose quiet diplomacy masked a fierce determination. Though she remained outwardly loyal to the Council, she secretly reached out to sympathetic races, urging them to join forces with humanity. "Earth has shown us that the impossible is possible," she told her allies during a clandestine communication. "Together we can break free from the chains that bind us." Back on Xylora, tensions within the ruling council reached a boiling point. Chancellor Kyungtae grew increasingly agitated as updates from the front lines painted a grim picture. "This is unacceptable!" he roared during one heated meeting. "A primitive species should not be able to resist our might." General Min-soo, ever the pragmatist, argued for more aggressive tactics. "We underestimated them," he admitted grudgingly. "But if we strike harder and faster, we can crush their rebellion once and for all," Ambassador Sua countered, cautiously, advocating for restraint. "Perhaps there's another way," she suggested. "Instead of escalating violence, why not explore negotiations? Humanity may have something to offer, something valuable." Kyungtae dismissed her suggestion with a wave of his hand. "Negotiations are a waste of time. Destroy them and be done with it." As the debate raged on, Jae-hyun wrestled with his own inner turmoil. His decision to warn Ji-yoon had been risky, but it felt right, a small act of rebellion against an empire he no longer trusted. Yet every day the weight of his betrayal pressed heavier on his shoulders. He knew Admiral Hae-jin would not tolerate disobedience indefinitely. If she discovered his actions, the consequences would be severe. Still, Jae-hyun couldn't ignore what he had seen. The arrogance of Chancellor Kyungtae, the ruthlessness of General Min-soo, and the desperation of Ambassador Sua. These flaws pointed to a system teetering on the edge of collapse. Could humanity truly be the catalyst for change? One evening, while reviewing classified files aboard his ship, Jae-hyun uncovered shocking evidence of the Council's atrocities. Experiments conducted on entire populations, mind control techniques used to suppress dissent. It was a chilling glimpse into the Empire's dark underbelly. The revelation sickened him. How could he continue serving an organization built on such cruelty? Determined to learn more, Jae-hyun reached out to Ji-yoon again, sharing fragments of information about the Council's crimes. In return, she promised to keep him informed about Earth's progress. Their alliance, though fragile, marked the beginning of something unprecedented: cooperation between human and alien. On Earth, Ji-yoon faced mounting pressure. With each breakthrough in her research came increased scrutiny from both allies and enemies. Defense Minister Woo-sik continued to push for restraint, fearing retaliation from Xylora. Others, emboldened by Ji-yoon's success, called for immediate action. "You're walking a dangerous line," Professor Dongwoo cautioned her one day. "Every step forward brings us closer to conflict. Are you sure this is the path you want to take?" Ji-yoon looked at him steadily. "There is no other path. We've spent too long being afraid. It's time to show the galaxy that humanity isn't just surviving, we're thriving." Despite the challenges, Ji-yoon's efforts began to bear fruit. Her quantum resonance device grew more stable with each test, its potential becoming clearer. The weapon wasn't just a tool for defense, it was a symbol of hope, proof that humanity could innovate and adapt in the face of adversity. Meanwhile, the coalition of oppressed species gained momentum. Yeonji became a key figure in organizing supply lines and coordinating attacks against Xyloran targets. Her skills as a pilot proved invaluable, allowing her to deliver critical resources to Earth's defenders. Other members of the coalition provided intelligence, technology, and moral support, strengthening humanity's position. Yet even as victories accumulated, sacrifices mounted. During one particularly brutal assault, Professor Dongwoo shielded Ji-yoon from falling debris, sustaining fatal injuries in the process. His death hit the team hard, leaving a void that could never be filled. But instead of succumbing to grief, Ji-yoon channeled her sorrow into resolve. She vowed to honor his memory by continuing the fight, not just for Earth, but for everyone yearning for freedom. As the days passed, whispers of rebellion spread farther than anyone expected. Planets once loyal to the Xyloran Empire began questioning their allegiance. Protests erupted in major cities, demanding reform and justice. Even within the ranks of the Imperial fleet, doubts surfaced. Some soldiers wondered whether they were fighting for the right cause or merely perpetuating oppression. Jae-hyun found himself at the center of this shifting dynamic. As more beings questioned the Empire's legitimacy, he realized he couldn't remain neutral any longer. One night, after wrestling with his conscience for hours, he made a bold decision. Ignoring orders from Admiral Hae-jin, he transmitted a message to Ambassador Sua, pledging his support for the coalition. "I've seen the truth," he wrote. "It's time to choose a side." His defection sent shockwaves through the Xyloran military. News of his betrayal spread quickly, sparking outrage among loyalists and inspiring others to follow suit. For the first time, cracks appeared in the Empire's foundation, cracks that threatened to bring the entire structure crashing down. On Earth, Ji-eun received Jae-hyun's message with mixed emotions. Part of her wanted to distrust him, fearing it might be a trap. But another part recognized the sincerity in his words and the opportunity they presented. With Jae-hyun's help, humanity could gain access to vital intelligence and resources needed to win the war. Together, Ji-eun and Jae-hyun devised a daring plan: infiltrate Xylora itself and expose the Council's crimes to the galaxy. It was a risky strategy, fraught with danger, but also their best chance at achieving lasting change. As they prepared for the mission, Ji-eun reflected on how far they had come. From forgotten primitives to defiant warriors, humanity had risen against overwhelming odds. For the first time in centuries, the Xyloran Empire faced a real challenge, one that threatened not just its dominance, but its very existence. And at the heart of this struggle stood Ji-eun, Jae-hyun, and countless others who believed in a brighter future. Whatever happened next, one thing was certain: humanity would never again be written off as useless. Betrayal is a word that carries weight, especially when it comes from someone you trust. For the Xyloran Empire, Captain Jae-hyun's defection was more than just an act of rebellion. It was a crack in the foundation of their seemingly unshakable rule. News of his betrayal spread quickly through the ranks, sparking confusion and anger among loyalists. Admiral Hye-jin, who had once regarded Jae-hyun as one of her most dependable officers, felt personally betrayed. She ordered his immediate capture, vowing to make an example of him to deter others from following his path. But Jae-hyun was no longer the obedient soldier he had once been. With humanity's survival at stake, he made his way to Earth, bringing critical intelligence about the Empire's operations. His arrival was met with cautious optimism by Ji-eun and her team. Though they appreciated his help, trust didn't come easily, especially when it came from someone who had once represented the enemy. Ji-eun studied Jae-hyun carefully during their first meeting after his defection. He stood awkwardly in the dimly lit command center, his uniform bearing the marks of a man who had abandoned everything familiar. "I know I have no right to ask for your trust," he began, his voice steady but tinged with regret. "But I believe in what you're fighting for. If we work together, we can bring down the Empire." For a moment, silence filled the room. Then Ji-eun nodded, her expression resolute. "We don't have time to waste doubting each other," she said firmly. "If you're serious about helping us, prove it. Show us what you know." Over the next few days, Jae-hyun shared detailed maps of Xylora's defenses, information about secret experiments conducted by the Council, and insights into the Empire's weaknesses. His knowledge proved invaluable, allowing Ji-eun's team to refine their strategies and prepare for the final push against their oppressors. Yet despite his contributions, whispers of suspicion lingered among some members of the resistance. Not everyone believed Jae-hyun could truly change sides. Meanwhile, on Xylora, chaos reigned within the ruling council. Chancellor Kyung-tae's confidence wavered as reports of growing unrest reached him. Protests erupted across multiple planets, demanding transparency and reform. Even within the Imperial fleet, morale plummeted as soldiers questioned whether they were fighting for justice or tyranny. The cracks in the Empire's foundation widened with each passing day. General Min-soo saw an opportunity amid the turmoil. Long dissatisfied with Kyung-tae's leadership, he seized control of the military, declaring martial law in an attempt to restore order. "The Council has failed us," he announced during an emergency broadcast. "From this moment forward, I will lead the Empire toward victory and ensure its survival." Though ruthless, Min-soo understood that brute force alone wouldn't solve the Empire's problems. He secretly reached out to Ambassador Suah, proposing a truce with the coalition. Led by humanity. "War has cost us too much," he admitted during a private meeting. "If we continue down this path, there will be nothing left to rule. Let's negotiate before it's too late." Suah listened carefully, weighing his words. Though skeptical of Min-soo's motives, she recognized the potential for peace. "If you're sincere," she replied cautiously, then let your actions speak louder than your promises. Start by ending the attacks on Earth. Min-Su hesitated but eventually agreed. For now, the fighting paused, a fragile ceasefire that gave both sides time to regroup and reconsider their positions. Back on Earth, Jian worked tirelessly to solidify the coalition's unity. Representatives from oppressed species gathered in secret meetings, sharing resources and strategies. Among them was Yeon-ji, whose skills as a pilot had earned her a place of respect within the movement. Together, they planned a daring mission: infiltrate Xylora itself and expose the Council's crimes to the galaxy. This won't be easy, Jian warned during one such meeting. Xylora is heavily guarded, and if we fail, the consequences will be catastrophic. But if we succeed, we can ignite a revolution that changes everything. Her words inspired those around her, fueling their determination to take the risk. Preparations began immediately, with teams working around the clock to modify ships, gather supplies, and train volunteers. Jae-hyun played a key role in these efforts, using his insider knowledge to identify weak points in Xylora's defenses. Despite lingering doubts about his loyalty, his contributions earned him grudging respect from many. As the mission approached, tensions ran high. Ji-yoon spent countless hours reviewing plans, running simulations, and ensuring every detail was accounted for. Sleep became a luxury she couldn't afford, yet she refused to slow down. Failure wasn't an option, not when so much depended on their success. On the eve of the mission, Ji-yoon found herself alone in the command center, staring at a holographic map of Xylora. Her mind raced with thoughts of what lay ahead. Would they make it past the Empire's defenses? Could they truly bring down the Council? And even if they succeeded, what kind of future awaited them? "You look like you're carrying the weight of the galaxy on your shoulders," a voice said softly behind her. Ji-yoon turned to see Jae-hyun standing in the doorway. His presence was unexpected but somehow comforting. "Maybe I am," she replied with a faint smile. "But it's not just my burden. It belongs to all of us." Jae-hyun stepped closer, his expression thoughtful. "You've accomplished something remarkable," he said. "You've united beings who never thought they'd stand together. That's not something anyone can take away from you." His words struck a chord deep within Ji-yoon. For so long, she had focused solely on survival and resistance. Now she realized that their fight wasn't just about defeating the Empire. It was about building something better in its place. Hope, she thought. That's what keeps us going. The next morning, the mission launched. A small strike team, led by Ji-yoon and including Jae-hyun, Yeon-ji, and several coalition members, boarded a modified stealth ship. Their goal was simple yet daunting: breach Xylora's defenses, infiltrate the Council chambers, and broadcast evidence of the Empire's atrocities to the galaxy. The journey was fraught with danger. Xyloran patrols roamed the skies, their sensors scanning for intruders. But thanks to Jae-hyun's guidance, the team managed to slip through undetected, reaching the planet's surface under cover of darkness. Once inside Xylora's capital city, the team split into smaller groups to avoid detection. Ji-yoon and Jae-hyun headed straight for the Council chambers, where they hoped to find the data archives containing proof of the Empire's crimes. Along the way, they encountered resistance, but also unexpected allies. Some Xyloran citizens, disillusioned by the Council's corruption, offered assistance, guiding them through hidden passages and disabling security systems. Finally, they reached the archives. Ji-yoon worked quickly, downloading files onto a portable drive while Jae-hyun kept watch. Every second felt like an eternity, the sound of approaching footsteps sending jolts of adrenaline through their veins. Just as Ji-yoon finished, alarms blared throughout the building. "They know we're here!" Jae-hyun shouted, drawing his weapon. "We need to move!" The two sprinted through the corridors, dodging guards and narrowly avoiding capture. Outside, Yeon-ji waited with the ship, engines humming softly. As Ji-yoon and Jae-hyun leaped aboard, blasts from Xyloran weapons lit up the night sky. "Go! Go!" Ji-yoon yelled, clutching the drive tightly. Yeon-ji didn't hesitate. With expert precision, she piloted the ship upward, weaving through enemy fire until they broke free of Xylora's atmosphere. Once safe, Ji-yoon connected the drive to the ship's communication system, broadcasting the stolen files to every corner of the galaxy. The response was immediate. Planets erupted in outrage as citizens learned the truth about the Council's experiments, mind control programs, and oppressive policies. Protests turned into full-scale revolts, spreading like wildfire across the Empire. Even loyalist soldiers began questioning their allegiance, torn between duty and morality. Back on Xylora, Chancellor Kyung-tae watched in horror as his authority crumbled before his eyes. General Min-soo attempted to seize control, only to face fierce opposition from within his own ranks. Amidst the chaos, Ambassador Sua emerged as a unifying figure, calling for peace and reform. For the first time in centuries, the Xyloran Empire teetered on the brink of collapse. Humanity, once dismissed as useless, had ignited a revolution that would reshape the galaxy forever. And at the heart of it all stood Ji-un, Jae-hyun, and countless others who dared to believe in a better future. Though the battle was far from over, one thing was clear. The age of oppression was ending. And humanity had proven, beyond any doubt, that it was anything but irrelevant. The galaxy was in chaos. The truth about the Xyloran Empire's crimes had spread like wildfire, igniting outrage across countless worlds. Planets once loyal to the Council now turned against it, their citizens rising up in protest. Some demanded reforms. Others called for the complete dismantling of the Empire. Even within the ranks of the Imperial military, loyalty fractured as soldiers grappled with what they had learned. For centuries, the Xylorans had ruled through fear and manipulation, but now their grip on power was slipping. On Xylora itself, the heart of the Empire, disorder reigned. Chancellor Kyung-tae sat in his chambers, surrounded by advisors who whispered urgent warnings. His face was pale, his hands trembling as he reviewed reports of uprisings and defections. "This cannot be happening," he muttered under his breath, his voice laced with disbelief. "How could everything fall apart so quickly?" General Min-soo stood nearby, his expression grim but resolute. He had seized control of the military after Kyung-tae's authority began to crumble, declaring himself the new leader of the Empire. Yet even he struggled to maintain order as protests erupted in the streets, and entire fleets refused to follow orders. "We need to act decisively," Min-soo urged. "If we don't restore stability, there will be nothing left to rule." But Kyung-tae, stubborn and prideful, refused to relinquish his position without a fight. "You think you can save this empire?" he spat at Min-soo. "You're no better than those traitors who have abandoned us?" Min-soo clenched his fists but held his temper in check. "I am doing what must be done to preserve our legacy. If you cannot see that, then perhaps you are unfit to lead." Their argument escalated into shouting, each man accusing the other of betrayal and incompetence. In the end, it was clear that neither would back down. As tensions reached a breaking point, Min-soo made a bold move. He ordered his troops to arrest Kyung-tae, claiming the chancellor was unfit to govern during such a crisis. Though controversial, the decision silenced some critics and allowed Min-soo to consolidate power, for now. Meanwhile, Ambassador Sua worked tirelessly behind the scenes to broker peace. She had long advocated for diplomacy over domination, and now her vision seemed more achievable than ever. Using secret channels, she communicated with leaders of the coalition, including Ji-un and Jae-hyun, proposing negotiations to end the conflict. "The Empire is falling apart," she explained during one encrypted transmission. "But if we act wisely, we can prevent further bloodshed and build something better." Ji-un listened carefully, weighing Sua's words. On Earth, celebrations had erupted following the exposure of the Council's crimes. People danced in the streets, cheering for humanity's victory against an oppressive regime. Yet Ji-un knew the fight wasn't over. Not yet. The Xyloran Empire still controlled vast resources and technology, and its collapse could plunge the galaxy into further turmoil if not handled carefully. "We'll consider your offer," Ji-un replied cautiously. "But make no mistake. Any agreement must include accountability for the Council's actions. Humanity, and every other oppressed species, deserves justice." Sua nodded solemnly. "Justice will be served, but first we must ensure peace." As preparations for negotiations began, Ji-un assembled her team to discuss strategy. Around the table sat Jae-hyun, Yeonji, Professor Dongwoo's former assistant Yun-ho, and several representatives from the coalition. Each brought unique perspectives shaped by their experiences, but all shared a common goal: creating a fairer, more equitable galaxy. "We have leverage now," Ji-Yun said firmly. "The Empire is weakened, and the galaxy is watching. If we push too hard, we risk alienating potential allies. But if we're too lenient, we let them escape responsibility." Yeonji leaned forward, her sharp eyes reflecting determination. "They've caused enough suffering. Whatever deal we strike, it needs teeth, real consequences for their crimes." Yunho agreed, adding, "And we should demand reparations, not just for Earth, but for everyone affected by their experiments and oppression." The group debated, late into the night, crafting proposals and anticipating counter-arguments. Jae-hyun offered insights into Xyloran politics, helping them understand how best to pressure Min-soo and his supporters. His knowledge proved invaluable, earning him growing respect from those who had once doubted him. While the coalition planned, unrest continued to grow across the galaxy. On Veyron, Yeonji's home planet, crowds gathered in public squares, chanting slogans of freedom and unity. Similar scenes played out on dozens of other worlds as oppressed beings found courage in humanity's defiance. The coalition's message resonated deeply. Together, they could overthrow tyranny and create a brighter future. Back on Xylora, General Min-soo faced mounting challenges. Despite his efforts to stabilize the situation, dissent spread rapidly. Some factions within the military defected entirely, joining forces with the coalition. Others remained loyal but grew increasingly disillusioned, questioning whether the empire was worth saving. Even Min-soo himself began to doubt his own convictions. Was he truly fighting for the empire's survival, or merely prolonging its inevitable downfall? One evening, as Min-soo paced his office, Ambassador Sua entered unannounced. Her presence startled him, but he quickly masked his surprise. "What do you want?" he asked sharply. "I want to help," she replied simply. "The empire is dying, Min-soo. You know it as well as I do. But there's still time to salvage something worthwhile, to rebuild trust and forge a new path." Min-soo stared at her, torn between anger and despair. And what would that path look like? Surrendering to those savages? Bowing to humans and their allies? Sua shook her head gently. "It's not about surrender or submission. It's about recognizing the flaws in our system and fixing them. If we refuse to adapt, we'll lose everything, including ourselves." Her words struck a chord deep within Min-soo. For years, he had believed in the Empire's superiority, convinced that strength and discipline were the keys to success. Now, confronted with undeniable evidence of corruption and cruelty, he realized how wrong he had been. Perhaps Sua was right. Perhaps the only way forward was through change. Reluctantly, Min-soo agreed to meet with the coalition. Under strict secrecy, representatives from both sides convened aboard a neutral space station, orbiting a distant moon. Tensions ran high as they gathered in a sterile conference room, each side wary of the other's intentions. Ji-yun led the coalition delegation, her posture confident but respectful. Across the table sat Min-soo and a small group of Xyloran officials, their expressions guarded. The air crackled with unspoken grievances and cautious optimism. "We are here to negotiate terms for peace," Ji-yun began, her voice steady. "Your empire has committed unspeakable acts against countless beings. Justice must be served, but so must reconciliation. Tell me, General Min-soo, are you willing to take responsibility for the empire's actions?" Min-soo hesitated, his pride warring with pragmatism. Finally, he spoke. "I won't deny the empire's mistakes. What has been done cannot be undone, but I believe we can work toward a solution that benefits everyone." The negotiations stretched on for days, each session marked by heated debates and tentative compromises. Ji-yun pushed for transparency, demanding that all records of the Empire's crimes be made public. She also insisted on establishing a galactic tribunal to hold key figures accountable. In return, the coalition offered amnesty to lower-ranking officials and soldiers willing to cooperate. Min-soo resisted at first, fearing the backlash from hardliners within the Empire. But as pressure mounted from both internal and external forces, he relented. Slowly, but surely, an agreement began to take shape. By the final day of talks, exhaustion weighed heavily on everyone involved. Yet there was also a sense of accomplishment, a belief that they had achieved something monumental. When the terms were finalized, Ji-yoon stood to address the room. "This agreement is not perfect," she admitted, "but it is a step toward healing. Together, we can build a galaxy where no one is oppressed or forgotten. Let this moment mark the beginning of a new era." Min-soo nodded solemnly, though his eyes betrayed lingering doubts. "For better or worse, history will judge us. Let us hope we have chosen wisely." As the delegates dispersed, news of the treaty spread across the galaxy. Reactions varied, from jubilation among the oppressed to resentment among die-hard loyalists. Yet one thing was certain: the Xyloran Empire as it had existed for centuries was gone forever. For Ji-eun and her allies, the work was far from over. Rebuilding trust and implementing reforms would take years, if not decades. But for the first time in generations, hope burned brightly in the hearts of billions. Humanity, once dismissed as useless, had proven its worth, not through conquest or destruction, but through resilience and vision. And though challenges lay ahead, Ji-eun knew they were ready to face them. Together, they had shown the galaxy that even the smallest spark could ignite a revolution.